Good. Happy June. We were just talking about how crazy it is that we are here already. Feels like the months definitely go quickly. So that's why we want to be intentional with where our time is going and where we're giving our attention, and really just be in the moment, and be present. I'm reading a book right now called Here and Now, and I just love that idea of thinking about what's in front of me right here, what's in front of me right now, what is it that I'm going to be fully invested in. And there are a lot of fun things that summer brings. So anything that's on your list, like what's coming up when you think about summer? It could be June, but it could also be July and August. Are there any like specific things? Maybe it's a certain trip or a certain event, or maybe it's just things in general that you enjoy doing and want to make sure are part of your summer plan. Anybody who's on live, if you want to share, it's
We're
always
traveling a week every month.
okay. Yeah.
Gonna be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. But you've done quite a bit of travel with your family, so it's just maybe that you'll have it every couple of weeks. Yeah. So
yeah, every 3 weeks.
Okay. Okay. Yep. So there'll be definitely need to be some intention around the weeks that you're not traveling, and then the weeks that you are, and what that looks like to be preparing, and also not, be able to be fully invested with where you're going. So yeah.
Yep.
And Jana, I know was going to set up some camping trips and things like that because her family likes to do that. Anything else specifically on your list this summer, Jana?
Yeah, the summer will be totally different schedule. It's my daughter's first summer break, so it's different from my work schedule. I'm glad that I started the plan with you together with Scott, and yeah, camping trip next month, and we also trying to put my daughter at least 1 week of the month on a summer camp.
Yeah.
To join a summer camp. So, the schedule can be, but at least I know. So I can put those things on the calendar. Yeah, so just trying to work this through and to see what this focus system is, because it's new to me.
Yeah, well, good. I'm glad you're here. And this is, an easy system to use. You can use it for previewing the month. You can use it for previewing a week. You can use it for previewing the next day. You can even use it for previewing the next 12 weeks, right? Like we talk about our 12-week plans. This could be a really helpful piece for that as well. So we'll talk through that. I know for me on my list, I've got like these two like major events with like nothing in the middle. So we have we have my mom's birthday, which backs up into a bridal shower, which backs up into Father's Day. And then we're home for 2 days. And then we take off for a fundraising event, which goes directly into driving through the night to an Army graduation and then back. So that's going to be, it's like a whole bunch of stuff within about a 10-day period. And then again, when it comes to August, we have a wedding and then moving our daughter into college. So that's another like 10-day period. That's like super compact. So yeah, it's going to be kind of the book ends, but that's okay. Right. That's why when we're looking ahead, then it makes it so that we don't feel like we're stressed or we're rushing around or we're not ready or we're not present and things like that. We want to avoid that by previewing. So nothing takes us by surprise. And there might be things that aren't on our plan that, will pop up, but by looking ahead, it really helps to eliminate as much of that as possible. So before we get into the focus format, a couple of announcement-y type things we always start off with. First of all, the Lila of the month is Heather Sherman. So congratulations to Heather. And she and I are connecting about when she's going to do her free coaching calls. So be watching because we'll do it live inside of the community. So you can learn from whatever it is that she's asking as well. So be paying attention for that. Also, if you guys have been following along inside the community or on the podcast or in the emails, we're celebrating 2 things right now. So in the month of May, we're well past it now, but we passed 10,000 downloads, which was kind of like that next milestone. So that was super fun to see. And I'm trusting God for 100,000 in a year from now. So really excited about that. And so I'm doing a giveaway because that happened. And then my 50th birthday, which is really tomorrow. And I didn't really say which day it was. I just made the giveaway it's somewhere in there. Is kind of coinciding together. So there are a couple of things that are going on with that. First, I'm doing a giveaway where somebody will win a 3-session coaching bundle, and someone else will win a full ride scholarship to the Redeem for Time program, or you can use it as a credit towards something in the future. So the way to get in there is to leave a review for the podcast. So if you haven't left one yet, go ideally into Apple Podcasts, because they allow you to like actually write something and not just give stars. But leave a review and then screenshot it, and then come inside our community and just post the picture, because I think it's fun to see what each other says, and then just hashtag it 100K. If you already left a review, or you don't use Apple products and you're on a different platform, that's okay. You can share the podcast with a friend. So like message somebody, attach the link, hey, I thought of you because, or here's what this is, done for me, or whatever. Screenshot it, stick it inside the group, hashtag 100K. That way we know that it's getting seen. So you have until midnight tomorrow, the 6th, to get to do your review or your share and post it inside the group. And I will do the drawing on the 7th. So that's coming up. So make sure that you're watching for that. Well, I was just thinking through, like, we could actually do it right now. If you haven't left a review before, it literally takes like 2 minutes. So why don't we pause? And if you've got something else that you need to do instead, because you already left a review, or you already shared, you already did it, then great. But you can do a review and a share. I'll let your name in twice if you want to do that. So if you're going to you want to find the podcast on whatever app you use, if you use the link redeemhertime.com/listen, that then brings you up to a whole bunch of icons of a bunch of different podcast apps. And then you just click the one that you prefer, and it should take you right into the show right on that app. So that's an easy way to do it without having to go search for it and things like that. So why don't we just pause a second, and I will give you a minute to do that. And if you already did it, then you can share the podcast with somebody, and then make sure you take your screenshot so you can come into the group and share that after we're done. So I love leaving reviews for podcasts, because I know how much it means and what it does for the algorithm and stuff like that too. So my rule of thumb is, if I listen to at least like 2 or 3 of a podcast and I like it, then I will like pause and leave a review. I'm going to check my library and see if I've left a review for everybody. Oh, I found one I haven't left a review for yet. So do that. Oops, I was meant to type so grateful and it said so fateful. That would not be good. Okay. Okay, pray that blesses her. Okay, thank you, thank you. We are going to, oh, there's one more thing actually that's happening over the rest of the month. If you have not had a Find the Time call with me before, I'm offering some really quick, we take a look at where your time is going and where you want it to go and help to uncover what might be a place that's sucking some of that time up that is going to a place that's not taking you towards where you want to be. So if you haven't done one of those with me before, I am opening up some spots for those this month as a special thing with my birthday month. So you can go to redeemertime.com/call and grab one of those. Okay, so let's jump into our focus system. I don't know if you guys listened, but episode 137, we were talking about previewing your summer, and I used the focus framework that we go through as kind of thinking ahead about all 3 months. So like I was saying earlier, you can use this if you're thinking about a chunk of time or a smaller piece of time. It doesn't really matter. But there are a couple of key parts of this. And the whole idea is that we're being intentional with where our time is going, right? Regardless of if it's summer, which I don't know, I'd be curious to hear from you guys when it's, I don't know, maybe I should ask the question this way. Do you feel the tension between wanting to be laid back and yet wanting to be intentional? Do you feel like there's that tension, especially maybe in the summer, maybe not in the summer, but maybe because Erin, you don't have kids in school, the school, ages yet, but Jana, you've got, your daughter now who's home or whatever. And so there's kind of this tension between just wanting to be a little bit more laid back and things like that. Tell me about that. Do you guys ever experience that?
Oh, well, yeah, this is, as I said, it's my daughter's first summer break without too much support. So, but, at least we have a plan now. And I also, my parents-in-law, they are hyping on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays with family support that helps in terms of my work schedule. So my focus is more, for my daughter and family more on Tuesday and Thursdays. Yeah, but I just thinking, when you have to watch a little one, it's hard to you to have quiet time unless I put her in front of TV.
Yeah, it does look a little bit different, doesn't it? I was just listening to a podcast on my walk today that was talking about like setting goals in the summertime when you have kids home, and so sometimes it's a matter of making sure my expectations aren't too high, knowing that I have other things that are, needing my attention, and that's not always a bad thing. Or maybe finding ways to set some goals that like they could be a part of. So this woman was explaining, it was on the Daily Grace podcast. She was talking about how there were some things projects she was going to work on earlier in the year, and she ended up saving them for summer because they were like hands-on projects. So she's like, oh, this would be a good thing for me to focus on in the summertime when my daughter's home, because I would love to have her next to me while I'm doing this, right? So sometimes like thinking ahead about, are there things, what are intentional things I can invite my kids into that will help them, with that. I know, Erin, you have support of some family as well. And this is like, kind of like your first summer home, really, right? Because wasn't it just after the summer last year that you walked away from your job and decided to stay home?
Yeah, it was September 2 of last year. So we're coming up on that. So yes, and this is our last summer before Micah starts his official schooling in the fall. So we're trying to do that well, whatever that looks like.
Sure. Yeah. There's no right or wrong, right? It's just paying attention to what are the needs and being intentional and knowing my time will look different when, the kids are not in school mode versus when they are in school mode. So I'd highly recommend, if you don't listen to the Daily Grace podcast, it's called Cultivate What Matters is the one that I was listening to, because they actually have 2 podcasts, but it was all about cultivating what matters with kids. It was episode 66. So highly recommend that for those of you guys who have kids at home this summer. They had some great ideas for what to do with that. Well, that leads us into our focus framework, because I love the first thing that we do is we pick a word and we make this our anchor word for the month, right? When we have a word that this is our intention, this is kind of like our check-in, it's that word that will help guide us. So when an opportunity comes across our path, or even tonight while we're working on this, we can keep asking the question, is this If I say yes to this, will this help me move towards whatever that word is? So the first one is that, how do I want things to feel or flow? And I want you to pick a word, or you can use a phrase. Sometimes it's hard to pick between just one word. Maybe you want two. But let's just take a minute to think about what word you want for the month of June. And then if you're open, I would love to hear what word you're picking.
Mine is sunny.
Ooh, yes.
I want to be outside. I want to be with family. I want it to be pleasant. All of those things can be sunny.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, I love it. Sunny inside and out. Perfect.
that's a good plan. For me, it's just more for kind of love, use the word love, and I think that's
Mm.
easier to anchor to, so that at least reduce my anxiety, and I'm trying to also, if I can pour out the good fruits to other people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When it's coming from the right place, then that ends up being a refilling kind of love versus a draining kind of love. And for lack of a better word, this is just the word that's coming to me, and I don't know if this is the exact word, but it's connected or connecting. Maybe it needs to be the ing. Maybe that's why I didn't like that other one, just because I feel like there are different people that I want to be connecting with, and there are some people I'm only going to see for a short period of time coming up over the next month. So I want to make sure that when I am with them, I'm truly connecting with them, and not just there in body, but really there in spirit. So, okay, that's the F. O stands for one thing. So those of you who are part of the group coaching program, you know about the one thing, and kind of how we focus that. But some people might be listening who are not part of that. So we always identify what's the one thing that really needs to get some of my time and attention this month. It doesn't mean it has to get the majority of it. It just means this is something that is going to really make a difference, kind of in a little bit bigger way than maybe some other areas. And so we often ask the one thing focusing question from the book, The One Thing by Gary Keller, which is, what's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else would be, and then fill in your anchor word. Right? Everything else would be, would be able to connect. Everything else would be sunny. Everything else would be, right? So I want you to identify, we'll just kind of leave a couple minutes of letting us work on this. What's that one thing this month? So Erin, maybe for you, it's planning some of those sunny times out, or maybe it's something that you need to take care of so you can go have the sunny times out. I mean, there's so many different ways to go about it. Jana, maybe it's ways that you intentionally, are going to love on those around you. For me, it's ways that I'm going to connect. So anyway, what's the one thing that you really want to make sure gets some of your time, attention, or focus this summer? And what you're going to do under that section, and we'll just kind of leave this for work time for the next couple of minutes, is identify the one thing, and then identify what you will do, and then when you will do it. Because maybe it's about a specific day or week or something like that in the month, or maybe it's something that's ongoing. Maybe it's something you need to start near the beginning of the month. Maybe it doesn't need a lot of attention ahead of time, but when it does come, you want to give it full attention. So what's your one thing for the month of June? We'll let you work on that. And when you're done, if you're able, there's a little reaction thing somewhere down here. You can put your thumb up and just kind of say, there it is on mine. Give the thumbs up if you're done. And then I'll just kind of keep an eye on where we're at. And maybe sometimes they give you permission to have two, so if there's really a second thing that was a really close second or really needs to have that time and attention, it is okay to do two of them, but Not more than 2, otherwise you're spread too thin. Okay, looks like we've got thumbs up for all of us who are on live. So if you're watching the replay and you're not finished yet, you can just pause this. Anybody want to share what your one thing is for the month and or what you're going to do and when you're going to do it?
I can share. So I mentioned that in our other program that I try to focus on go to bed on time.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then what will I do? I will try to stick to the schedule I set to myself. For example, I need to wrap up my work by 10 p.m. and then start to wind down starting at 10:15 p.m. And then, so I just feel like yesterday I didn't meet my goal because I feel like, oh, today we have focus. This is a new thing to me. My perfectionist come in. I need to see what I need to prepare. I need to listen to Lisa's podcast and to see whether I need to do something. Yeah, so and then realize the next day, oh, we have 1 hour, I probably will work there. But I just trying to squeeze in stuff. But I didn't stick with my schedule. I also I need to do some exercise for my back pain. I feel like, oh, I haven't done that. Those are necessary. I need to do that. So that's why it's keep pushing my go the right time to go to bed.
Sure. So it's almost like you might need a bigger buffer and not make it 10 o'clock that you start winding things down, but maybe make it like, I know it sounds crazy, but like make it like 9:45, right? And give yourself a little bit more time. So that way, if there is a little bit, and then probably those extra things you need to do need to happen near the beginning of your day or sometime in the middle of your day. So they don't all start, dominoing up near the end of your day.
That sounds good. Yes. Since I have that tendency, maybe more buffer is better at this time.
Yeah. Because even what I find is if I work all the way up until whenever my thing is, then it's like, okay, here I am, but I'm not really unwinding because my brain is still in whatever mode it was in before. And so, and I hear you because there are days when I feel like I have things I need to keep doing and I do. And I don't usually, it could get done later. It doesn't have to be done right now, but like you said, sometimes we just feel like it needs it, but not always. So, yeah.
Okay. So
awareness is the first step, right? And then we say, okay, so what happened, like when you have a night like that, what was it that pushed me past that time? And what do I want to do different tomorrow? Right. So you don't beat yourself up. You just assess and then you adjust and then you move on and give yourself grace in that. My one thing is my Her Redeemed Year that I'm kicking off tomorrow. And so on Sunday, I prepped a bunch of like reflection questions and I don't know that I'll get through all of them tomorrow. So my plan is I got a journal that's just for this next year that you can like put the date up at the top. I like those ones where you circle the month and you circle the day. And so I've got like this series of things that I'll be doing. I don't know exactly what the whole year is going to look like, but I at least know kind of the beginning steps of it. And so that's something that I want to get my regular time, and that will happen in my morning refill because I know that if I try to squeeze it in later, either it won't happen or I'll be taken away from time that I've already, allocated to family or another project or something like that. So, and then Sunday mornings, I do have extra time Sunday mornings because typically everybody's sleeping in extra and I get up at the same time. So that gives me a little bit of extra time on Sundays and I just kind of do more God stuff on those mornings. So I will do that. Mark it on there. Okay, so right now I want you to put your one thing somewhere on wherever it needs to land on your calendar so that it's going to get that attention. It's not just something we're saying here at the beginning of the month, but it actually is going in before all the other things. Now there might already be some things in your calendar, which we're going to talk about in just a minute, but before we put anything else on there, I want you to, to really put that on there. So maybe Janice, since yours is a daily one, you set an alarm for 9:30, which means I have 15 minutes. And then maybe, at 9:45, your phone goes into focus mode or something like that. And so that could be, you know, kind of what you do that gets you gearing towards, it's almost time to, you know, to unplug and start reconnecting with yourself or your spouse or whatever it is that you're going to do at the evening. Okay, C is for commitments. Okay, here, this is really important. Both the C and the U are really important because we're looking ahead at what things have I already said yes to that that I need to make sure are on my plate or my calendar. Have you ever had those times where like you said yes to something, but then it didn't get on your calendar? Like today, I realized I wrote down a date when I was at church yesterday, but then I used my bulletin to jot some ideas down, and then it went in a different place and I never went back to the date. So that's going on my calendar right now. But what commitments do you have this month? So Erin, your trip definitely needs to be on there. So you're looking ahead at that. Jana might be your work days, and then kind of maybe somehow marking the days that your daughter's home. So in your mind, you're seeing, you know, this is a day that I'm going to be looking at things a little bit differently because of that. So I'll give you a minute to kind of look ahead at the month, kind of think through, is there anything that I don't have down either on paper or if you're using a digital calendar form somewhere in front of me that I need to get down? So we're looking at what's coming up. Could be appointments, meetings, work, a class, date nights. I find if I don't schedule the date nights ahead, then that makes it challenging. So yeah, I need to put this down. We have one on Saturday, so I need to put that down. If I didn't write it in. And when you're done with that, just put your thumbs up again. That way, I'm getting my stuff down here too. Let's see. What is coming up? Okay, which kind of leads us into the next one, which is upcoming, which just, I actually was looking at this and I went, oh, I have something coming up that I need to figure out some details for. Actually, two things I can think of. So as you're looking ahead, what are things you need to start preparing for, or you need to start doing so that when it comes to that time, you'll be ready. So that's the you, what's upcoming, and thinking about what are things I need to prepare for. Sometimes there's something physical, tangible you need to do for it. Sometimes it's just, I need to think through how I'm going to figure this piece out, or get other things done so I can be ready for that. And then I always say, peek ahead at the first week of the next month. Because anybody ever have that experience where you flip the calendar and you're like, oh, shoot, totally forgot, right? That being said, let me just say a quick thing. Because the first Monday of July is July 3rd, I'm assuming that's going to be a 4th of July, you know, type thing going on because the 4th is on Tuesday. So I think we're gonna do our Start Focused call on Wednesday the 5th that week. So if you're available, great. If you're still celebrating the 4th, then that's fine. We'll catch you in August. But I want to make sure that I said that because yeah, that first Monday seemed like it was going to probably overlap with some other things going on. So are there any things that you need to anticipate or be preparing for? Oh, I have another one. And maybe if it's even, I've got something on the 15th of July that I need to be doing some stuff for my husband. I'm actually going to work on that tonight. So maybe you're working ahead more than just the month, but what's coming up. When you're done, you can just put a thumbs up if you are got all your commitments down. There is something about it being in writing. So that way we make, or at least if you're using a digital calendar, looking at either a month at a glance or your week at a glance. I definitely do a hybrid method where I've got like a big monthly calendar that you can't see, that's giant thing that sits on my desk. This is super helpful because then I can really lay out the month. And then my weekly planning happens in my planner. And then my appointments and things like that for coaching is on my digital one. So I kind of have to make sure everything's synced together so that I'm not missing something. Oh, which just reminds me, I saw somebody book this call and I need to write this. I need to get that down too. Okay, the last, let's see. Here. I'm just gonna grab this real fast because I just realized I never wrote this on my calendar. Okay. Okay, the last piece of the focus plan is simplifying, especially when, if you right now you're looking and you're like, oh my goodness, I don't know how I'm physically going to manage everything that's in front of me. Here's where we always want to do some purging. Okay, so you guys are familiar with this, but for anybody who's not familiar with the 4Ds, the first thing is what can I delete? What's maybe on here that I think I should do, or I think I need to do, or maybe someone else thinks I need to do. I'm working on some materials right now about how what motivates us specifically when it comes to internal or external expectations. Some of us are very much, we will do things because it's what other people expect of us. Some of us are people who will do things only if it's something that we find value in, and it really, not that people don't matter, but like it doesn't matter as much what other people think, but it's really from inside here. And then some of us are a combination of both of them. So I'm diving into some ways to kind of take a look at ourselves, and when we understand that, then it helps us to be able to see how do I take this to help me know what to say yes to, what to say no to, or how to plan my schedules, or how to manage expectations and things like that. So be watching for that. It's in the works right now. But right now is what can I delete? Is there anything on here that you're like, as you're looking at it, you're like, you know what? That does not need to happen. My month with a big chunk out of it, like I don't have a whole lot of days left. So I'm looking at it going, okay. The second one is delegate. What does need to happen, but I am not the only person who can do it. This Friday is the day that my friend comes and cleans my house. And I love those days because she could focus on some deeper cleaning, in some areas that I just can better spend my time doing other things that only I can do. Or maybe there's, a family member that you can ask to be a part of things, or invite family members to join you in something, or maybe you swap with somebody so that way you can help each other out with childcare or getting something done or whatever that is. Is there anything that you can delegate? The next one is, what can I delay? What did you want to do in June? And maybe it was on your plan, but as you're looking at things, you're like, you know what? This might be what sends me over the edge. Maybe this doesn't have to happen in June. Maybe this could be bumped to July and everything would be okay. Or maybe it can get bumped till August or September. So is there anything on there that you can delay? And the last one, not because it's least important, but just it happens to be at the end of this list, is what are you delighting in? What things are happening on here? I want you to look ahead at the next month. And you may be doing a lot of things for other people, which is great, but are there things that you are building in that are taking care of you? Those of you who are part of my group coaching program, we talk about having our daily refills because we have to fill up in order to pour out. So maybe you already have a regular rhythm and routine of that in the morning and the evening, but maybe you don't, or maybe there's some, that's nice to have a few minutes in the morning, but then you want to block off an afternoon to get together with a friend or to go get your nails done or to just hang by the pool or whatever it is. I'm going to encourage you to go ahead and put that on your calendar now, because here's what happens. If we don't schedule it, it usually doesn't happen, right? Those great intentions, like for me, this is this paddleboarding thing. I keep saying we need to get them down there, or like still up in hanging up in the ceiling of our garage. And I said something the other day, and I'm going to make a big note right now, and maybe I can get my husband to help me after I'm done here, but we're going to get them down because they're not going to get used if they're hanging way far up there. At the very least, we could just use them here on our little figgy farm pond, but I'd like to take them some other places this summer. So that is something that I want to make sure I get some time, like actually on the calendar to make that happen. So you guys can hold me to that by the time we come back next month, that I will have paddleboarded. Paddleboarded is how you say that? All right, it's going on this day. Okay, so how are you feeling about the month ahead? Are you feeling like you've got a good idea about where what needs to happen, where your attention is going, what's coming up, what you're focusing on, what matters, things like that? Do you have any questions, any things you want? This is a great opportunity to say, hey, I've got this, but I'm not sure where to put this. Or I would love to delegate this, but I'm not sure how. Because sometimes those of us who are doers like to just keep doing all the things. And so we don't sometimes know how to delegate. So this would be, you could ask a question about that, or how to fit in some time for filling up you. I'll just kind of leave it open for a few minutes if you guys have any questions or things that you want to either say that you've noticed or you've realized or has been helpful, or questions or needs that you have.
Yeah, I have a question. I have a question.
I love it.
So for organizing, I really like the idea of the person what we call them, organizing specialist or organizer. Yeah, it's just my husband said, he likes this kind of messy state so that he know exactly where everything are. It's just, it's just hard to get him on board. And then if organizer put on the other place or cleaning people, he often complains. So, but anyhow, it just feel like, how would you approach him, or if I want to get some help for organizing?
Well, I definitely wouldn't try to organize something that is directly his space. So we have this joke because my husband tends to spread things out on the counter, and he now has 2 different counters where he has stuff spread, and it drives me crazy. And he has a bunch of stuff upstairs in our guest room, and our house sitter is going to be up there. So I'm like, you have to get your stuff cleaned up. So I try to encourage him with his stuff, but I always say focus on the spaces that are maybe your workspace, right? So where you're doing your work, maybe the kitchen, because that's a place that we tend to spend a lot of time. So needing to have some organization and, and feel like I can see my counters and I can do the things I need to do. So I would maybe ask you, Jana, what is a space that you would feel good about having organized for yourself?
For myself, yeah, the living room, because my work desk is in the living room.
Okay.
Because it's easier for me to watch the kid.
Sure. Yeah.
So
that would be a great place to start.
Yeah, we like to. It's hard when you have a little one because you put it back, they pull out. Yeah, maybe just looking for a system or just extra help to feel less overwhelmed. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, a couple ideas. I mean, Erin has younger ones, so she may have some good ideas, but especially for a shared space like that, I don't like to keep a lot of toys there, but maybe what you could do is you could build some, when I say build, I'm not saying you don't have to build it with a hammer, but put together some little kits. So maybe it's a coloring book and crayons. And so that's a kit. Maybe there's a Lego kit. Maybe there's in just some different little bundles of toys. And so when it's time for you to work, she can go to wherever those are. They're don't keep them in the living room, keep them in a different room, whether it's in her room or in another place if you have another space. And then she can just grab that one bin. And then this is now what she's going to play with for the next, whatever your time block looks like. So whether that's an hour or whether that's, you know, for the morning or whatever that time is looking like. So then it kind of feels new. Like it's not just all the toys all the time. That was always like my biggest, like pulling out my hair. My boys had this trunk that had like all their dress up stuff, and it would end up being like everything else got dumped in there. And so there'd be like tiny little things. And of course they're looking for one thing. So everything comes flying out, you know, as opposed to just having like some Rubbermaid bins or something like that just have a couple of things in it that go together. And then it's easy for her to pick up because it's just this one, you know, one type of thing. And then when she's done, she can put it away. And then the next time that, you know, you're doing that, then she can grab a different one. And so it kind of feels like it's new again, but it's not all the things that are coming out. Erin, what ideas do you have with younger kids at home?
It's related to yours in that, like in their playroom, cleaning that up was a bear because I like things to be in their certain spots, and the boys are pretty good about remembering where things are supposed to go. But taking the time and saying, okay, this goes here and this, so we got from Costco, it's kind of related to the bin idea, but it's just it's a cupboard with cubbies, and you just pull out the cubbies, and they're collapsible, like you take out the bottom and they collapse. And so I just say, okay, pull a cubby, and one of them has blocks and one of them has Lego. Actually, two of them have Legos, because so many Duplo Legos. And so when it's cleanup time, it's so much easier. You just take one of those cubbies and shove it in there and then put it away. And it's also, it looks nice. So it makes me feel good. Like I've been able to do a lot of cleaning in a little bit of time, and it looks good. So it's that same idea of having, I mean, it's different in that it's in the area and they have everything available to them. But if they know, okay, if you're done with one bin, put it back, which 2-year-old and a 6-year-old, 6-year-old's pretty good at that. The 2-year-old's like, meh, but
right.
It's easy to clean up, which is nice, at least.
Yeah.
Is that like a storage?
Yeah, kind of. It's just like a storage cubby.
Square in.
Yeah, and put the square in. And I actually I'm thinking about taking a cubby out because they're collapsible. Because one of them has a bunch of their swim diapers in it, and now we don't really use swim diapers as much. So I was going to take that one out and put some books in there and rotate the books. So there's only a certain number of books at a time because it's a finite space.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Like, I think sometimes we think our kids have to have access to all of their toys all the time. And it's actually overwhelming for them, right? Because there's not this appreciation for what they have. And then everything just kind of gets jumbled together. And then it's not really fully appreciated or used like it could or should be. So I like the idea of just you can grab a cubby. And when you're done with this cubby, you got to put everything back in it and put it away. And then you can grab a different one. So that's a great idea.
I think I should really just simplify it. Right now it's a point. There are too many. So you need to start to donate, and even a good thing, they're just too many.
So, that is so true.
Downsize.
Yeah. And maybe what you could do is could be like an outreach project or something you do with her, that you find a shelter, you find, like an organization or something at church that can take the toys or use the toys. And so I know with my kids, it always helped them to get rid of things or clean out things and think about what they really don't, need or want as much as something else. Because if they knew it was going to somebody else that really didn't have anything, then, it gave a little bit more of a reason to be cleaning out. So that could be a fun project, just doing a little bit at a time with her.
So when you think about, sometimes I feel like, okay, maybe I can sell this on Facebook Marketplace, so I get some money. But because I have that kind of thought and keeping those things, that could be also why I feel.
Sometimes I'm like, it's just easier for me just to get rid of it and put it in the donate. We just did our stuff swap at church on Saturday. And so we had done a workshop that I taught back in April. And then our homework was to go through a room or go through an area and clean out. And so we brought everything to church. You could take anything if you wanted to, but most of it was getting donated. Yeah. And there were some things that I was like, oh, I could take that to a consignment shop, or, maybe I could sell that online. But that's where I think you have to decide, how much are you really going to get from it? And is it really worth your time to do that? Sometimes it's just not worth the time to have to go in and monitor and things like that to get not that much. So I
agree with that. I've learned that it's not worth the time.
Yeah, like yard sales, like I will never do another yard sale again, because, it's great to get stuff out of my house. My rule is once it leaves the house, it doesn't come back. So for that part, it's good, but I never make very much. And it's like, I put all this time in pricing and setting things up. And then I'm like, I could have just donated this and been done with it. So that's at least my personal, you just have to say, where's the best use of my time, right? Even if I could make a couple bucks here or there, it's not always worth it. But no, it's a good question. But I mean, you know, there is a thing to, you know, our kids being able to do stuff. My friend just told me today that she took her son, he's doing some kind of like electronics recycling, and he made like $127 today from just electronic things that he'd been collecting from different places or people or whatever. So, you know, maybe there are things that, you know, as your daughter gets older, that she could be a part of, you know, figuring out how to sell it or that type of thing. Yeah. Anything else? How you feeling about June? Go ahead.
I want to articulate what I'm thinking, not necessarily because I have a question, but I do want to hear feedback if that's possible.
Totally.
And also as a side note, my husband has a 5 o'clock and he needs to get in here before this because we share this office for stuff. So I'm going to need to jet in about 5 minutes or so. So the thought is I'm actually, as I look at the summer as a whole, I'm feeling pretty stressed as I look at the whole summer, because my husband has backup when we're not traveling. His off weeks are backup weeks, which means we're tied here because he could potentially be called in. He has to be within a certain distance, and so the beach thing has totally gone out the window, because I was looking at my calendar and I realized the first time we can go to the beach this summer is August 31.
Oh wow,
that's kind of far away. So I have to let that one go, because another thing I wanted to do is use our fire pit, and I can do that actually this Saturday afternoon. So I'm letting that disappointment go and realize, but you know what, we're doing trips. Those places are going to have pools. We're still going to be outside. We're still going to be sunny. It's nice to have that grounded feel and flow of the month. So we're still going to get outside. I'm still going to be in the garden. I'm still going to do things like that. So I feel that stress kind of relieved a little bit. Another thing that is stressful in that, if my husband is on call and then he's working and then we're traveling and then he's working and then on call and then working, traveling, working, that cycle does stress me out. So then it struck me as you were talking, Melissa, that I just need to use the weeks that he's working more intentionally, because we just tend to get in a flow with the boys and I when he's working. And so now I need to be more intentional about those weeks, taking more time for me to focus on stuff. So I usually have ask my in-laws to come over like once to twice a week. One day is really about writing my book. I really want to get that book done by my birthday in August. So I'm going to need to be more intentional to have 2, maybe 3 days a week. Then the boys start saying, but I wish you were here. So maybe they need to be more specific, finite time. So maybe I can even stay in the office and say, if you want mama to be home, I need you not to come in the door while the sock or whatever's on the door. Like we used to do that in college, right? Don't come in if the sock's on, I am studying, or some people do it for other things, but I went to a Christian school and that's not what we used it for. So put something on the door. So these are things that have come to mind, and I also welcome affirmation or like ideas.
Well, a couple of things that come to mind. My first question, when it comes to the beach, I don't think that waiting until August 31st is probably what you want to do. So is that the first time that your husband could go with you? Is that why you're saying it couldn't happen until then? Okay, so here's my question. Number one, could you go by yourself with the boys? That's one question. Or number two, maybe better, who could you go with? Maybe there's another friend and her kids. Maybe your in-laws, or, you know, I can't remember which of your family lives near you and which don't. I know your in-laws are close by because they watch the boys, but you know, maybe thinking about, for sure, book the 31st with Craig, because you want to make sure that that day gets on there. But then what if you ask somebody else to come with you and you say, I want to go once in June and once in July, and then we'll go all together in August. And so you just find somebody who might also enjoy a day at the beach as well.
Yeah. That's true. Going by myself stresses me out even more than missing it, because there's 2 of them and the beach and the water and
so find somebody,
having someone come with me.
Yeah. Or maybe that's one of those things where, like, you know, there's like a high school girl or like a junior high girl who's, you know, doesn't have like a full-time summer job, and you could like pay her, you know, like what junior high school girl doesn't want to go to the beach? and if she
Right.
ate a little bit, plus she got lunch or whatever, she might be like,
Right.
oh, this is great, like, so maybe it's
That's a
not
good
even like
idea.
a friend, maybe
Yeah.
it's somebody that you kind of hire or something like that. But yeah, I would just kind of think creatively around what are other ways that I could make this happen, because there's value to going and you want your boys to have the experience and you enjoy it.
Yeah.
What else would be possible? Like, what could that look like? So that's one idea around that. Yeah. And then when it comes to, the travel, and I know with your husband's work schedule, like, he's kind of like an all or nothing, type thing. So it's really, challenging. So either, thinking about like having your in-laws come more often on those weeks, and just know like, yes, it's going to be a little bit more of this on this week's, but when we're on vacation, then we're together 24/7 essentially,
Right.
so
Right.
it's all like, I don't think you need to feel badly about what it looks like during the weeks where, there's more work happening. One of the things I've been trying, Erin, which might be helpful for you with your writing. So like, for example, if I was working on a podcast, sometimes I would do a little bit over like 3 days. And for whatever reasons, like I would work on the podcast in the morning, then I'd have a different project in the afternoon. And the next day I would do the same thing. And I was like, why am I like spacing this out? And so I'm trying right now where I'd like only work on the podcast like on Tuesday. And so it just kind of gets me in the flow. And so instead of starting to do other things, I wonder, this is where you need to think about, how do you work best? Do you work best having like little chunks of writing? Like, do you get to a point where it's like, I can only write so much? Or would you do better to say like, okay, this is going to be grandma day, and I'm just going to like, go and super focus, whether it's in your office or somewhere else, for a bigger chunk of time, and really get in the flow of the writing versus starting and, kind of having to see where you left off and that kind of thing. So maybe playing with some bigger chunks of time and seeing if that helps you make greater progress towards that goal.
It does. I've done that on Fridays usually when they come, and by the end I have a headache and my eyes are about to cross. And so I've learned I can write for maybe 5 hours, but it's not good for my health.
Sure.
Because I literally will sit there and do this. So I was thinking, okay, if I can be super focused for 3 hours tops and then go out and move, then maybe that would work. I would love to be able to just sit and keep going, because once you get into the zone, it's amazing how much you can get done and where your mind goes and how productive you feel. And
but well, they do say you need to take a break like once an hour, or at minimum once every 90 minutes, and you have to move, you have to hydrate, and you have to look into the distance or get outside. So even if you have a 3 or 5 hour time block, not to try to push straight through all of that, but like, you might find if you just take those little 5 or 10 minute breaks every hour and a half, that it's enough to reset your body and your brain, but it's not so much that like you've lost track with where you were, and having to, kind of like regroup. So yeah, because your body can,
I need to set those
so much. Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah. All right. Well, I know you need to go because you got to share your office. I got to go get some stuff ready for tomorrow and this stuff for my husband. So I will post this replay. I hope this has been helpful using our focus system. And again, this is just kind of to help you preview. But then again, I highly recommend we do this at the beginning of the month. I recommend before Monday. So I do this on Sunday mornings where I prayerfully look over my plan for the week, see what adjustments need to happen, if there's anything that's come in that I need to address or make sure it has space, and really kind of know where is it going this day. And then each evening before I'm like shutting down my computer, I'm taking a quick peek at the next day. What do I need to be prepared for? Is there anything I need to do ahead? That type of thing. So this system can be really helpful, whether it's for a whole quarter or whether it's for just a month or a week or a day. But it's just the whole idea of looking ahead, right? And just like setting those priorities and giving them the time and attention, and then holding it loosely, because life might happen or God might bring an opportunity that you didn't anticipate. And that's not a bad thing. Sometimes those are exactly what we need. So, all right. You're welcome. I hope that was helpful. And yeah, if it's helpful for you to print this out, so you actually, have a paper copy, or you each month could fill it out if you want to. So you've got, something solid like that, or you can just kind of keep it handy, whatever you want to do. But good. All right. Well, have a great evening. I know I'll be seeing you soon. And those of you watching the replay, we'll look forward to seeing you inside of our community. Take care.